I'm Sally Kirkman from sallykirkman.com, and I'm here with my friend and fellow astrologer Christina, who's from oxfordastrologer.com. And we're here to talk to you about the month ahead astrology, which is the astrology that covers the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. And also, if you want to find out more about 2023, I've got a horoscopes ebook for sale on my website. And Christina's doing some lovely year ahead videos for all the star signs for her subscribers too. So do check those out. Oh, and just one more thing. We've done a star sign special, if you haven't seen that already, which is on all podcast programs. Is that what you call them? Podcast programs?
Platforms.
Platforms. Thank you, Christina. So do check those out. They're little bite-sized podcasts, and there's videos as well on Astrology Talk podcast on YouTube telling you about your star sign. So lots to dip into. How are we doing, Christina?
Okay. I mean, it's cold, right?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty well. I have to say that this Mars retrograde in Gemini, which we're living through at the moment and which has been going on since the 30th of October, has taken its toll. Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I think it's been there's been a lot of mental health issues for people that I've been speaking with. And I mean, some people had a great time. They've just reread. I just speaking to someone yesterday who's reread the whole of the Narnia series, which seems like a good thing to do when Mars is retrograde in Gemini. So I'm okay, but I'm quite looking forward to Mars going direct, I must say, and a little bit anxious about that too, which happens in the next month.
Yeah, I've hated it. Scorpio, Aries rising, it always gets me Mars retrograde. And I think during that full moon, which was December the 8th, when, you could see red Mars next to the moon in the sky. It was quite incredible how close they were. I was just so irritable and grumpy. I had a lot of writing on, but I was finding it hard going. I was bored of sitting at my desk. I just found it really hard. And a lot of friends struggling with kind of mood and grumpiness. So I've not liked it, actually. And that was the midway point, wasn't it? The sun at Mars. So that was kind of 5 weeks in, and we've still got to wait.
Didn't it feel that was the midway point, but it just already felt like it'd been there forever going retrograde.
Yeah. It was a real peak of that energy, and not easy, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So great if you're kind of skating through this, fantastic. But it's not been easy, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I wondered, actually, because it seemed to me that there was mental health stuff that people had actually repressed and kept, people who kept going through the COVID and the pandemic and kind of managed and got through that had a kind of have been kind of really realizing that actually they've been struggling. And I think that's to do with it being retrograde in the sign of mind, that Gemini is the mind, isn't it? And Mars is this when it's retrograde, it digs in and investigates, and it's that I always think of Mars as like this sort of sharp point, cutting things up, pushing around. And and also I don't want to go all negative, but quite a few people passing or kind of ghostly stuff happening. I had that my dad turned up as a kind of ghost by surprise for me, in a manner of speaking, in that he I grew up in Egypt, and he did the occasional like really tiny speaking part in Egyptian movies. So if they needed some English speaking person to say something, they would get my dad, with this film director, Yusuf Shaheen, would get my dad to come on and say, good morning or whatever. So I was watching an Egyptian movie the other night in preparation for going to Egypt, and suddenly there was my dad on screen. It was so strange.
I think that's wonderful. I think that from an astrological viewpoint, it's about the square to Neptune as well.
Absolutely.
isn't it? Because
At Mars retrograde, my dad was this
yeah,
very sort of aggressive little guy saying something, and there was the square to Neptune, exactly, which is
yeah,
films, of course.
appearing on the movies. So yeah, the blast from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. People have been having really quite profound and weird dreams.
Oh my God, yes.
You know
Every
as
morning in this
well.
household. Especially my Gemini, my daughter who's a Gemini, she comes
Yeah,
out every morning and says, "Oh, I had 3 dreams," like, and, having to go through them, very intense. Yeah, and I personally have had very intense dreams, and I think that's the Neptune square as well, the Neptune
mhm,
square,
mhm.
because we're also, I mean, we're coming to the end now of that Jupiter in Pisces, and Jupiter in Pisces is just like throwing all these dreams at everybody, have
Yeah,
them now, quick,
yeah,
uh, because that's it. This is your sort of peak dream phase for 12 years, probably. Well,
yeah,
I
yeah.
hope
No,
more
it's
dreams as
true.
well.
It's true. And by the time the sun moves into Capricorn, Jupiter's back in Aries, isn't it? It's the day before, it's the 20th of December, and then the sun moves into Capricorn on the 21st of December. So there's this sudden real change of direction. There's suddenly this cardinal energy. It's like we're back out in the world in a way and moving away from that really deep and kind of obsessed and quite intense inner life that's been going on. And I have to say, I'm looking forward to that. So I'm looking forward to Capricorn season.
Yeah, well, this is always a very hard time of year for astrologers because we're working so hard.
Yes.
We're working so hard at doing all these end of year things and trying to do stuff for next year, and so, and trying to get it all done before Christmas so we actually can sit, have a holiday.
Mm.
So it feels very stressful, doesn't it, for us?
Yes. Yeah, it's always like this. It's always intense and peak and trying to get everything done so you can have a break over the festive period as well. So you're working like a maniac, really, tied to your desk. I mean, we've been talking about wanting to get out in the fresh air and move and walk. So,
Mm.
hopefully that's coming. So what do we think about Capricorns? Do you like them?
Yeah, I do actually. I really like Capricorns.
Mm.
Um, they are, I always say the same thing sometimes. They're an underestimated sign.
Yeah.
In that people always think, oh, it's the CEO, it's the person in charge, it's the establishment. Well, this is all true. That's the sort of
Yes.
Jeff Bezos end of Capricorn,
Yeah.
or say someone like Rupert Murdoch, Capricorn rising. These people who are very in charge people, but there's also they're in charge because they are priests. They're high priests of rock and roll. David Bowie, Elvis,
Yeah.
have that shamanic quality to carry, to connect spirit and earth, spirit and matter. And I have to say, those are the ones that interest me, are those Shirley Bassey, the high priestess, that incredible voice. You get a lot of great voices with Capricorn, those resonant voices.
Well, their soul, isn't it? They've got real deep soul within them that comes out. I mean, it's interesting because I was just thinking about who do I think the first 2 people I thought of was Kate Middleton. I mean, and she's just part of the firm, isn't she? It's that duty, responsibility,
Establishment, total establishment.
And then the other one I thought of was Patti Smith, who's one of my favorite poets, singers, incredible woman. I mean, and a great model for aging as well.
A priestess of rock and roll, another one. She is high priestess.
So, you can't just put them into one little box, can you? Kate Middleton, Patti Smith.
Yeah. Well, for some people, Kate Middleton is a priestess of establishment virtue, I suppose. She's a symbol of what, I don't know. I mean, she's another symbolic figure, I suppose. And I wonder if that's something that can end up happening with Capricorns.
It's interesting.
I mean, that just occurs to me that
so they become a symbol for something else. They become like an archetype. I think that's very possibly true. It's a powerful star sign. And at this time of year, it's the peak of, in the Northern Hemisphere, the peak of midwinter as well. So, there's that kind of the wintry silence and solitude and really going in, that I think they have got this deep inner sense, this deep inner spirit to them very often. And it is a time when, talking about what people want to be doing, moving, to the end of this year and the new one, a lot of people just want to stop and look at what's gone, what they want to let go of, and and how they want to move forward as well. So there's this deep inner process that takes place, I think, as one year ends and a new year begins, which is emphasized by Capricorn, that ability to turn inwards.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I mean, and it's that time of year, and it's that kind of sign, isn't it? That they have a kind of inner strength when it's working well. One of the things I notice with Capricorns, even Capricorn moon, people with Capricorn in their chart, is that they sometimes seem to understand how the world works instinctively more than the rest of us, who are kind of swimming around trying to figure things out. Whereas Capricorns do have this understanding of like hierarchies and how to get it, basically how to get ahead. You know, they're climbing, they're ambitious. So whether you're the priestess type or the CEO type, you're still driven by an ambition to reach the top of whatever you're doing. You know, most Capricorns are not going to be satisfied with being, you know, the being just of service. You know, it's got to be they, even if they're in service, they have to be the best at it or very, very good at it. So I admire about them is the excellence.
I agree. I mean, there's if you think about the greatest rock and roll singer of all time, probably a lot of people would say Elvis. And then the other Capricorn I think of when you say that's Muhammad Ali, also Capricorn. And he was, you know, his nickname was the greatest. So it's, they do excel at whatever they, or there's that possibility to excel at whatever they channel. And they're so good at putting one foot in front of the other and climbing to the top of the mountain. And they'll keep going until they get there. And they have that fantastic sort of long-term vision as well, Capricorns, which again is, you know, that's what we're doing as we leave one year, and then we look ahead and we make some plans and, you know, ambitions to work towards maybe, or letting go of stuff as well. It doesn't all have to be achieve, does it?
Yeah, one of my favorite and your favorite astrologers too, Jeffrey Cornelius, is a Capricorn, of course. Yes, he's written the most Capricorn book. Astrology book, which everybody should read if you're really interested in astrology, called The Moment of Astrology, which is all about how when you get together with the person who you're reading for, the client perhaps, there's a moment that happens with astrology. But this book is like a brick written by a Capricorn, so very dense. It's got everything in it that needs to be in it. So it's not easy reading. And I would say that also about Capricorns, they're not necessarily always easy reading, so to speak.
There's quite an academic side to them, isn't there? Or, you know, that
I would
cross in a way that's dense, I suppose, is one of the best words to describe.
I would say thoroughness about them. I wouldn't say academic necessarily, because you might get Gardner who's like that, but thoroughness,
good word.
I like it. I mean, that's admirable, the thoroughness. Okay, so speaking of which, shall we we've done a little bit of retrodiction.
Yes, we have.
We've talked about Capricorns in general.
We have. We're doing well, Christina. Tick, tick.
Shall we leap into the month ahead?
We shall. Let's, because it's quite, there's a lot going on. But yeah, it's a funny stop-start, isn't it?
Yeah, should I put the new moon up, because it's really early in this month ahead. It's on the 23rd, and we can talk about the solstice at the same time.
Yes, because it's actually quite a similar chart. We were just looking at it, although the angles are different, but the themes are the same. So yeah, on 23rd December, new moon at 1 degree Capricorn. So the sun has only just gone into Capricorn. Cardinal sign. And I mean, the first thing to say is that, you know, Jupiter's just gone into Aries. So the sun, moon, and Jupiter making a square aspect in cardinal signs at the beginning. And boy, I'm kind of feeling that I'm ready to go and get out the trap. I just want, you know, I'm thinking, what do I want to get out, and I want to walk, I want to be physical, I want to stand up, I want to stretch, you know, get out of this desk. I want to go, I want to get back out in the world. I've been too at my desk actually, so I can feel the pull of that. I can really feel the pull of that.
I think this is because of your Aries rising, I've got to say. So, agreed. You know, this Jupiter going back into Aries is going to come in with a sort of a lot of fire for people for Aries, and really put, you know, light you up. until May. So you've got until May. I mean, you've had it in 2022 for a while, for most of the middle of 2022, and now Jupiter's back. And it comes back with kind of a bang because it makes the square to the sun at the solstice, and then to this new moon, a couple of days later. But at the same time, Mars is still retrograde, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So there's like this desire to go forward, and actually in part of your people's lives, there's something that's going to be going forward. I mean, you may actually, Jupiter is a sign of travel, for example. Sorry, the planet of travel. Yes. But so your desire is to go forward, but there's another part of your life where things are not going to be going forward, which is not just the Mars, but Mercury is going to go retrograde too. Mercury is already slowing down.
Yeah, it is. Mercury turns retrograde on the 29th of December. So we are going to have two key retrograde planets, Mercury communication, Mars action, both on go slow as 1 year ends and the new year begins. So it's not a time to rush into 2023, although do look at where that Jupiter falls, because I think it's interesting as well. Jupiter's in Aries, a speedy sign. And I don't think I've ever seen Jupiter move from start to finish of a star sign so fast. It's going to be out by mid-May. It's going from 0 to 30 in 5 months.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
It's got a passion. I mean, I would say this is a passionate Jupiter.
Yeah.
And it may be wherever it falls. So for example, I can see, say, Librans having a really passionate affair with someone, or Sagittarius also. This is passion that leaps forward and takes you. For a lot of people, I think there's some kind of passion somewhere in your life that's going to push you, propel you forward.
Yeah.
It'll be different for each of us.
It will be different. I mean, it's going to be an interesting one for Capricorn, isn't it? This year, this new moon, because it's your new moon. It's, time to set intentions for the year ahead. Jupiter's down at the base of your chart, so things could be happening quickly around home, family. You might be on a big retreat into the past. Someone might come back into your life. There's a lot going on at the roots of your chart. And I think wherever Jupiter falls, there is an urgency to crack on and do things. It's like, let's not wait, actually.
Especially because it's in Aries, this is an urgent Jupiter.
Yeah, it is an urgent Jupiter. Also trailblazing, pioneering. So I think with my Aries ascendant, I can feel this, a real, desire to start something new, to get new things moving. Because I've really felt this sort of wallowing, this inability to move with Mars retrograde. And I think this is going to help personally. I know Mars is still retrograde for a few weeks. It only turns direct on January the 12th. But even so, that Jupiter in Aries, I think it's going to help Aries feel like they are moving forward again.
Yeah, actually, I think other people, others will feel it too. Just a matter, I do think, hold your horses, get everything prepared while this Jupiter is, champing at the bit, this passion. And, maybe that you're having a passionate love affair, for example, if you're a Sagittarian, but in another part of your life, like your business partner, that's all stalled. So go with the Jupiter part, but but don't push the Mars part. And this is the beauty of astrology, is that you can see that it's in different areas of your life, most likely. So again, like with Capricorn, that Jupiter leaping forward, maybe something to do with family or property. It may be that you decide to have a baby, expand the family, or that your son is getting married to someone, or that you're going to move to a bigger house. There's a classic Jupiter in that angle for Capricorn.
And also I want to say with, there is a proviso, because when you've got Mars retrograde, you do rush into things. There can be physical injury. So I think particularly for Gemini, and also perhaps it's in Capricorn's 6th house, isn't it? If it's in your 1st house or 6th house, it's not about being foolhardy on a physical level.
Don't do it, guys. Don't do it.
Yeah. It's kind of, that's there is a cautionary note there. So particularly when it's in a physical sector of your chart, you need to be a bit wary.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this Mars retrograde for Pisces, and thinking actually my house is a complete tip at the moment. I haven't been able to, because I've been so busy working. It's just a mess. And Mars retrograde is of course in my home sector. So I have actually just let it go, so to speak. And I'm expecting when Mars goes direct on the 12th of January that I will suddenly have this urge to clean the whole place. Yeah, actually just burn it down. Do you know what I mean? I have a bonfire. But yeah, I mean, Jupiter is in it for water signs, of course. This is Jupiter leaving their fellow water sign for, and won't be back into a water sign for several years now. And fire and water kind of works, kind of tricky. I mean, it's different for you. It's interesting for you because, well, we both have the same thing of a fiery ascendant plus a watery sun. But that Jupiter moving out of Pisces for fire signs may feel like something, a little bit of a loss, I think. So just be prepared, the loss of the dreaming.
And you mean for the water signs? So for the water signs, it's going to be a loss. Yeah.
Just a little bit, bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah. Although, I think for all the water signs, again, because Jupiter's going to be in either a money or a work career sector, it is a time to sort of, light the fire and start looking ahead and to get a bit motivated about those areas as well. Yeah, I mean, it's, okay, we need action here. This is where we need to perhaps get a bit more vision or, dynamic.
Practical, isn't it? I mean, it becomes more practical with the signs. It's like, okay, you've been dreaming, now do it.
Yeah. And also that Mars retrograde, I think for Taurus and Scorpio, it's in one of your money sectors. So still the area not to go mad is finances. And I really think with that Mars retrograde in one of your money sectors, hold off making big key financial decisions until January the 12th. And Mars retrograde here is an excellent time to do a review, really get on top of your finances and sort things out to see where action will be needed when it turns direct.
Yeah. And you may be a bit skint at the moment.
Yeah. Or you may want to spend less. I mean, it's a bonkers, isn't it? There's the time of when Christmas presents, Christmas food, people often spend a huge amount on that. And I think I'm noticing so many people doing the opposite, really reining in spending actually. And, thinking about experiences are more important, or meeting up with people's more important, and not spending so wildly. We've got a massive cost of living crisis here in the UK. So, that needs a rethink. And, Mars is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. And we've got Mercury turning retrograde on December the 29th. And I think Mercury is one of the planets that's connected to the markets, merchandise, trade. So it's a time to really be rethinking, what you normally spend, the way you normally do things. Do it completely differently this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Mercury and the sign Gemini are both about commerce, aren't they? And the exchange. So Mars is retrograde, people are just not going to be exchanging money for goods in quite the same way, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see. I mean, and Mercury retrograde just emphasizes that. So it may also be that they don't go wild in the, Christmas sales after Christmas either, that people are still holding back at that point. I mean, it's going to have, the economy, sigh, it's the real economy is really suffering here, closed shops, people out of work, the strikes. We're really in a winter of, it's not even a winter of discontent, it's a winter of fear and misery for a lot of people, I think. It's in this country anyway, because of the cost of living crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. And those strikes aren't going away, are they?
No, I mean, the nurses have gone on strike. It's incredible. They've never gone on strike ever. And I think is the nurses union, how old is it? It's like they haven't gone on strike for 100 years. Now they're going on strike because they're so poorly paid and they've been treated so badly during this. They saved us all from this COVID thing, and then they don't get a pay rise.
Yeah. And, the government needs to do something about it, don't they? I mean, looking just at the chart of the new moon, Jupiter in Aries, I think is, one of the symbols of the strikes. I think there's also other factors, but square all those planets in Capricorn, the establishment, the government, it's like, okay, this can't go on.
And it's interesting that also that we've got the Uranus making conjunction to the North Node.
Yeah.
I think we may have discussed that Uranus and Taurus before. Uranus is gonna go direct next month, isn't it? But Uranus is about, taking individual action, taking action, rebelling, and it's in the earth sign, but it's also a money sign. So people are really feeling the pinch in their pockets and are ready to actually go on strike about it now.
Yeah.
I can't get my daughter home she's visiting her boyfriend in Cardiff. I can't get her home on Friday.
No, train strikes. I know I've got to go. I'm driving to pick my daughter up. I think it's a common theme at the moment.
Yeah.
I do want to say about the Mercury retrograde. Should we leave the new moon chart? And
I think we should. Goodbye, new moon chart.
I'm looking forward to you, though.
Quite looking forward to that. Okay, yeah, crack on about this Mercury retrograde then, which starts on the 29th, doesn't it?
Yeah, 29th of December to January the 18th. And it's the first kind of 3 Mercury retrogrades. They're all going to be in Earth signs moving forwards throughout 2023. And this is the first one that's completely in an Earth sign. Turns retrograde in Capricorn, turns direct in Capricorn. And I kind of like that. It doesn't feel as much of a trickster Mercury retrograde as it might be in a different element, and maybe there's more sense of, okay, let's hibernate, let's retreat, let's slow things down, let's take it easy, let's, allow that time to review, to reflect, to ponder. It feels like a gentler, softer energy. I don't know what you think, whether you think it's going to go.
I like it. I mean, I do think that it's also going to be a serious, we'll see what happens with governments again, because Capricorn is a sign that we do associate with government, with the establishment. And, whether there's going to be yet another change, I don't think so. But there's a reassessment about what government can actually do in various places around the world, I would think, with that Mercury retrograde. I like it also because it's practical. And I like these Mercury retrogrades in Earth for 2023. And in fact, there are 4, aren't there? Because there's another one at the other end of the year. Unusually, there's usually only 3, but there's 4, and that one's going to be in Capricorn too. So there's a lot of practical change going on in the coming year. Because you have to also consider the fact that when there's a Mercury retrograde, it simply means that Mercury will spend a really long time in that sign. Instead of 3 weeks, it's like, I don't know, it's
a couple of months. I think it's 2 months it spends then in one sign.
So it's going to be in that Capricorn right into February, actually. And this is very practical, and it's about actually changing quite deep established structures. And this may be structures in the way that you think, or in your or in your value system. These are structures that are to do with a combination of thought and practicality. So it's like applied principles, if you like. So it's interesting, like, say for Sagittarius, you could say, oh, well, it'll be about money and we're looking at your finances. It's also about your applied principles. What is your philosophy? And how are you making that happen in the world?
And I think a really interesting one for all the Earth signs, actually, because for Taurus, it's in your 9th house, which is another sector of the horoscope that is about kind of ideas, your philosophy, your beliefs as well. For Virgo, maybe a bit different because it's kind of the creative sector, but maybe it's kind of what you love. It's reassessing what you love, what you're, what brings you joy in the world as well. So I think for all the earth signs, it's probably likely to be quite a nice retrograde phase.
I also think that, we've had Pluto in Capricorn since 2008, right? And so we get this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn every, whatever it is, every 4 years or so.
4 years, yeah.
But this is going to be the last one, I think, before Pluto leaves. There'll be one at the end of 2023, but we're able to really look back on the last decade now with this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn and ask ourselves what changed, what happened, and really come to a real assessment about it. What happened on, underneath, not kind of floaty Neptunian stuff, but the actual Pluto, what has changed, what's gone, and what's being regenerated.
Yeah.
And so it's a great time for actually looking back over a long period, I think, with this Mercury retrograde, which goes up until the 18th of January, doesn't it?
It does.
A nice long chunk. And then it stays in Capricorn until the 11th of February.
Yeah.
But it's a nice long period for really thinking about this extraordinary decade that we've been through, where so much has changed. And what's changed for you, because it's quite personal.
Yeah, and I also think what's added to that during this Mercury retrograde period is the fact that, we'll have the Venus conjunct Pluto on January the 1st, and the Sun conjunct Pluto on January the 18th, the day Mercury turns direct, and then also there'll be a final Mercury-Pluto conjunction. So it is this, and those will be the last conjunctions they make. I'm not quite sure what happens when Pluto dips in and out of Aquarius and Capricorn.
Last one that Pluto will make with Venus, but I think it'll have another encounter with Mercury, obviously with the Sun, I think as well. I think with the Sun. I say obviously very casually, but definitely I think with Venus it's definitely the last.
It'll probably be next year, won't it? Because it doesn't establish itself in Aquarius until November 2024. It is going back and forth a little bit. But even so, having, Venus, Sun, Mercury all running into Pluto, again, as the year begins, it's like, okay, what do you want to put to bed? What do you want to let go of? What do you want to close the door on? What's coming to an end? What can't continue? And needs to be reborn? Always with Pluto, I think of the phoenix that rises from the ashes. There's this theme of rebirth and renewal that needs to take place.
And it's especially intense now because we talk about, it's going into Aquarius. That's the thing. Actually, the thing is that it's going to be hanging around at the end of Capricorn. That's the real thing, because it's only going to 0 Aquarius. Okay, so that's important, but it's really important when a big planet is hanging around at the end of a sign. It means there's a lot of stuff to finish off. And regeneration, as you say, that's the whole point about Pluto, is the regeneration that comes with Pluto. And there's some regeneration that needs to be done before Pluto wants to move into Aquarius.
Yeah.
And that's and I think it's really interesting that Pluto keeps on coming back into Capricorn, saying, and another thing that we have to do.
Yeah, it's not an easy process, perhaps, or not something that can happen overnight. Whatever you're starting to let go of or close the door on now, you've got to kind of, you're looking at this for the next couple of years. This is, it's not a short-term goal, it's a long-term goal or a long-term process.
And just to put that in perspective, I mean, when Pluto went from Sagittarius to Capricorn, it took 10 months. Whereas this time it's going to take like 2 years.
Yeah.
And so it's like going through the door and coming back, going through and coming back. Because there's just so much that's happened that needs to be finished off. And I think that's one of the things we do as astrologers sometimes, is we tend to sort of look to the future too much and think, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Instead of thinking, actually, this is where we are right now. Let's be intense about being right in this moment and doing the, using the energies of right now, instead of thinking, oh, well, in 3 years time, there's going to be a Jupiter and whatever, and I'm going to wait for that. You have to, it's working with the energies of now. That's the whole point about this kind of astrology.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. And when you were talking about that, it made me think of, I think this is important for Aquarius in particular.
Yeah.
Because these, it's all happening in the sign before yours. And Venus is going to be in Aquarius actually from the 3rd of Jan, then for the next 3 weeks. So Aquarius can be, a little bit detached, or not deal with things, or avoid things, or, just not connect. Actually, I think with the astrology that's going on for Aquarius, it is about, okay, do I love this person? Are we going to be together? There's some big decisions that need to be made, perhaps around love and money, with it being Venus in your star sign and these endings going on.
Well, the other ending for Aquarius, of course, is that Saturn's going in March.
Yes. That also
so you're also in that end game with the Saturn. And in fact, it's interesting because I think that Aquarians have had quite a tough time, even though it's their planet in their sign. So it's like strengthening. But they've had sort of, quite a lot of Aquarians who've had quite serious stuff to deal with. I think it's possibly to do with the square to Uranus has made it a much more difficult transit of Saturn through their sign than it might be otherwise. But they have been having to deal with reality. The Aquarians that I know, it's like big reality right in the face. And you're coming to the end of reality, Aquarius. No, but you're coming to the end of that quite harsh reality check, I think, as Saturn moves out of your sign.
Yeah, and it's kind of life and death stuff, actually. I mean, it really is, it's the big stuff in life. So a really powerful time, really powerful turning points. Should we have a look at the full moon chart as well? Can we bring that up? Because I'm just looking at the time, and there's going to be a full moon on January the 6th that cuts across the Cancer Capricorn axis of the zodiac. So we're moving into the new year, and there's this quite important full moon, bringing things to light a little bit. Often full moons bring revelation or illumination. They shine a light on what's going on. And Mercury retrograde is right next to the sun in Capricorn, isn't it?
It's interesting because that last the full moon that we just had Mars retrograde right in the midst of things, and this one has got Mercury retrograde right in the midst of things. I mean, so it's obviously important for Cancer, as it always is. Any full moon is, but this is your full moon, Cancer, so let those emotions flow. And it's about partnership probably for Cancerians, and actually a very good day for and good time for having those conversations that have been suppressed, that you've been avoiding. Stop avoiding having the conversations. And ditto, I would say, for Capricorn, stop avoiding saying the stuff that you really want to say.
Yeah, and also, these retrograde themes, I think there is a bit of an inner struggle that goes on when you get the retrograde theme. I mean, full moons heighten emotions, and there's often an inner struggle when you get, like with the Mars retrograde one we've just had. But also look at what's hidden coming to light. I think it is a time to confront things, to look at life kind of head on in a way. And, particularly I think for the Aries Libra, this is across the foundations of your chart: home, past, career, future. So looking at things head on, not necessarily putting things into action on this full moon because Mercury is retrograde, but making some decisions on an inner level, ready to implement once Mercury turns direct on January the 18th. It's kind of it feels to me more like an inner change, an inner process, maybe going on during this full moon. Also, I was just looking at because I said 6th of January, but you've got it as the 7th. So it's right. It's kind of almost at midnight, isn't it?
It's at midnight. It's at 7 minutes past midnight. It's 6th, 7th January.
Yeah.
I had it as the 6th previously as well, so I don't know why it's anyway. It's going to be the 6th for certain people, and it's going to be the 7th for others.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
that night, the night of the 6th, 7th,
Yeah.
is the night of this full moon. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm just interested at that Jupiter has moved already to it's nearly at 2 degrees.
Mm,
And it's
going
right there.
quickly.
Yeah, yeah, it's nipping along. And also that Chiron is on the bendings nearly of that full moon.
Mm.
And that's just something that I want to mention now for people who are born with Chiron and Aries. They're having a Chiron return around now, and that's people born between 68 and 75, I think. And so you've got Chiron in Aries, and you're going to have Jupiter in Aries, so that's quite a sort of strong set of symbols that people born around then are having, of the wounded healer, the wound maybe being reopened, and having this kind of examination of what it means to be human that Chiron brings to us.
Mm. Mm. It's also, potentially it can be sort of a release from something or freedom from something, can't it, with Jupiter involved? It can kind of, Jupiter either expands, and something grows, or there's this theme of freedom and release that goes on as well. So I think particularly for Aries and Scorpio, that feels quite powerful again. What can you release or let go of? Maybe something, it can sometimes be physical, can't it? Chiron and Aries.
I found Chiron in Pisces was pretty physical too. Speaking as a Pisces, I find Chiron's quite a physical thing. I had physical stuff happen with the Chiron, and when it was going through across all of my planets.
Well, yeah, and Chiron did have a physical wound, didn't he? So
exactly. This is not all in your head, the Chiron stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, and then the next thing that happens after this full moon is that then we get Mars going direct on the 12th, and then we have Mercury going direct, and that's really the story of the rest of this period, isn't it? Is that and speaking of release, there can be a release when these things go direct. Of course, Mars is still moving very slowly when it turns direct. It's not the speedy Mars that we know. It's a slow, deliberate Mars.
I don't care. I just want it direct. I don't care. I mean, it will be moving in the right direction in Gemini. Time to speak up and sort things out a bit as well. But
I think that, that's when the new year really begins, I think.
Yes.
Is really when these two planets turn direct. So we have this delayed start to 2023, and then it really begins when the first Mars and then Mercury. So in that middle January period, that's when things start to take off again.
Yeah, there could be a real run of green lights, couldn't there? On January the 12th, Mars direct, January the 18th, Mercury direct. So, and you may have to play a waiting game. It's not a year to rush into. But at the same time, I'd say harness wherever that Jupiter is in your chart. That's where you can, I think, find some expansion, some joy, some adventure. So really harness that. It's a nice Jupiter for all the fire signs, actually, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, kind of lining up fun things to do, new adventures. So that's where you can grab hold of things. But yeah, there needs to still be a slower move into 2023 this year. It's interesting.
It's it's very deliberate. And I would also say, with the Mars retrograde, during the Mars retrograde, which is up till the 12th, still be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. You don't want to put your foot in it. On the one hand. On the other hand, if you're relearning a language, it's a very good time. And then when it goes direct, be deliberate about what you say. So you've been writing everything down during the Mars retrograde, and now you can say it, but you're reading it out from what you've written down when it goes direct, because it's still slow.
Yeah. And also be careful what you sign up to still, because there've been a lot of scams, and, you know, scams have been getting cleverer. The sort of, you know, texts and whatever that have been coming in, and fake accounts, and also, so be really just cautionary about what you sign up to with Mars retrograde in Gemini. And hopefully when it turns direct, then you can kind of sort things out a bit there as well.
Well, I think you're really right to bring up scams, but I would say wait till Mercury goes direct, which is the 18th of January. I agree with you. There seem to be a lot, and I'm just wondering if there are some that, you know, there's ones that we don't know about, which will be revealed during these, you know, in January, that there's some kind of huge scam that's been going on. So yeah, be really cautious about what you're signing up for. And who's speaking to you on the telephone. That's kind of a Gemini thing. Who's on the other end of the line? Is that person really the person that they say they are?
Yeah, that's the big retrograde advice, isn't it, actually? Because to have Mercury and Mars both retrograde December 29th to January the 12th, that's just, yeah, absolutely be careful who you're speaking to. Who is this person?
Yeah, they may not be who they say they are.
Yeah.
Don't put the wind up you or anything, but I'm thinking of some very, you know, some people's parents that I know, quite elderly, who've been so ripped off by these phone people. So it's around, you know, be cautious. Or just don't listen and hang up. You know, that's the other thing about Mars retrograde, Mercury retrograde, is that you can just hang up on people. You know, you don't have to listen to that stuff. What about Twitter? You know, block people. It's a great period for blocking people, or Instagram, whatever, mute them. People, the stuff that you don't want to hear or you don't listen to.
Yeah, Elon Musk is Cancer, and I'm just wondering whether this full moon is important for him. I don't know I can't remember what degree his sun is in Cancer, but who knows? Maybe there's stuff going to come to light for Twitter as well during this period.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, yeah, when is his?
You don't know his birthday off the top of your head, Christopher?
Don't. Elon. I'm so sorry.
You're representing the card, though.
I want to say the 6th of July, but I'm sure that I'm thinking of somebody else when I say that.
I have no idea. Anyway, I was just suddenly thinking with that full moon,
but if it were the 6th of July, it would be around 16 degrees of Cancer. That's why I hesitated for a moment.
Okay. There are going to be a lot of revelations coming out, aren't there? Bit by bit in January. This full moon starts it, Mars turning direct, Mercury turning direct. It's a time of revelations. Definitely.
Say that there are issues around communication stuff because of the Mars retrograde in Gemini, or for Geminis, and then the Mercury retrograde, because Mercury rules Gemini, right?
Yeah.
So they've got a sort of big double going on, Geminis.
Yeah, and do you know the other thing that's really kind of quite spooky is that they both turn direct at 8 degrees.
Yeah.
So Mars turns direct to 8 Gemini, Mercury turns direct to 8 Capricorn. So they're in a quincunx blind spot aspect. So I think we're really going to get, you know, there's going to be some things leaping out, coming to light in quite a shocking way. Once they both.
Can't help thinking about Trump and Johnson, our famous Geminis at the moment. What's gonna leap up and bite them, you know, that they've already done, their words that they already said, is gonna, you know, what shark's teeth. I can just see the sharks coming up.
Interesting times.
Really interesting. But
how are we doing on time? I have no idea, having said interesting times, because I can't see a clock.
Oh, well, I'm not sure either. It's I think that we've done about an hour, though.
Have we? I kind of feel we might have. Yeah, and I have no idea what the time is.
But anyway, I want to say Happy New Year to everybody, and Merry Christmas. And, you know, have a great time. Christmas Day itself looks really nice because of that Aquarian moon. The moon is in Aquarius on Christmas Day.
Yeah, social. I think it feels social, and a lot of people doing things differently.
And especially maybe
changes.
Not quite so family oriented and more friendly.
Community. It's about community. It's about friends looking after one another. I can really feel that where I live. You know, the town I live in, people sort of opening their doors to others, and you know, the real community feel. So yeah, thank you all for your support over the year. And we look forward to podcasting for you in 2023, but have the best time. Just retreat a little, you know, go in with all this retrograde stuff. Although get some fresh air too. I've got to get out.
Yeah, me too. I'm desperate to go out for a walk now, actually.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Oh, let me just put the screen back up to large and we can just.
Lovely. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye.